This is Philip Martin, and this is On Film, on video. And here we are in the bunker. This has been a hairy month because this is, as usual, in early December. Uh, this is when we vote. This is when all the film critics of the world decide what the best movies of the year were. And as I say in my new movies column this week, I don't not take that seriously. I take it very seriously. Even as I realize how silly it is for me to sit here and say these are the 10 best movies of the year, because number one, I haven't seen every movie. I have not seen the Macbeth movie yet. I have not seen West Side Story yet. Those are the two big ones I'm missing. There's a couple others that I haven't seen that I probably will see tonight, tomorrow night, maybe even Friday, even though we've got something planned Friday, so I don't know that I'll be watching. And then I've got to turn in my ballot to the Southeastern Film Critics Association on Saturday or Sunday. I'll probably turn it in Friday because, like I said, I don't think I'm going to be doing any watching on Friday. I've got a couple of more things to see, a couple more things to do, but it's sort of a sprint. And like I said, there's some things obviously I won't get to, and some things that I probably should have seen earlier that I've kind of rushed through. We just saw The Last Duel the other night, and I kind of liked it. I mean, it's not like one of the best movies of the year. It's not one of the films that's going to stand out to me, but it's an interesting movie, and it's a movie that certainly deserves some consideration. And I like a lot of what Ridley Scott was doing with it. I like Jodie Comer in it. I like Matt Damon in it. I like Adam Driver in it. It doesn't cohere in a way that would lead me to put it on a list of the best movies of the year. At the same time, I enjoyed it quite a bit, and I enjoyed it more than I thought I would, based on what I had read and heard about it. And in an ideal world, I wouldn't read or hear anything about these movies until I'd seen them. This is one of the things I try to do when I determine that I'm going to review a film, is that I'm not going to pay a whole lot of attention to the hype, to the buzz, whatever is out there in the atmosphere about it, until I see it. And then I see it, and I can go from there. I'm not immune to what's going on out there, but I try to insulate myself as much as possible. Now, in my position as an editor of a film section, obviously I can't do that because I have to edit every week reviews about different movies, and movies I haven't seen. So often the very first impression I'll get of a film will come via Keith Garlington or Piers Marchand or Dan Liebarger when I read the reviews that they've written of the film for me. Like this week when I read Dan's review of West Side Story, I go, oh, okay, so it's not what we feared it might be, and Dan seems to like the movie quite a bit. I think I would like the movie quite a bit based on his reading of it, and based on what I know of the original, which I'm a fan of. So, is it pure? No. Is it silly? Yes. But it is important in that I have to send these things in order that I get these screeners. The advanced copies of the movies that I've been looking for all year. I get to actually, enjoy these things. So, and it's it's really important for, if you're going to write about film, to know about film and to see film. And one of the problems you have when you live in a tertiary market like Little Rock, Arkansas, is that you don't have very many screenings. You don't have a lot of attention from publicists or from movie studios who, think you can do, good for their marketing. So, it's really sort of imperative that I belong to critics organizations and I vote in these things so I can continue to get access. That is the basic reason to do this. Anyway, I'm sitting here and I've got my right over here on this other side of the screen that you can't see. I have my Sefka ballot up, and I'm talking about, and this isn't final, but I'm talking about the top 10 films. I'm trying to decide on my top 10. And here's what I have. This is a draft. You will see I will have a top 10 at the end of the year in the Sunday Style section, and it will be probably slightly different than this. Usually is slightly different because I'll get to see some more movies between now and then. And any moment that I make a list, it's just the list in that moment because it can change very quickly. I'm not the sort of person who decides this is the best thing I have seen and it's not going to change and I'm going to live and die on that hill. I go back and forth. At some point, I thought that the Beatles Get Back didn't belong on this list because it's basically a 8-hour experience. It's show along, and I didn't think it was fair to compare it to the other films on this list. On the other hand, I've never made this clear distinction between films that show in a theatrical setting and films that you see on some other platform like some critics have. And it's a reasonable thing to do. It's like, okay, this is church, this is state, this is TV, this is film. Okay, it's just another, way of drawing a distinction, a bright line distinction between things, which helps us, characterize things and sort them in our minds and stuff. But the way I look at it, the most honest way is, if I see something and I like it, I want to say, I like it. So I toyed with putting the Beatles Get Back at the very top of my list because it's the film that I think that is going to really remind me of 2021 when I go back on it. When I think back, I think that's the movie of the year for me because all kinds of reasons, and I've talked and written about the film a lot, and it's really just a cinema verite experience where you're sitting in the room for 8-9 hours with the Beatles, and if you were immersed in that lore and you came up in my circumstances, in my cohort, and you will enjoy it, you will learn things, you will feel differently about these figures that you have known about all your life, and you will feel like you hung out with them, and it's a different kind of experience. It's a qualitatively transformative experience if you're susceptible to it. Okay, so I thought about putting that right at the very top of my list. I didn't. The best film of the year, and I don't think I'm going to change on this, is probably Jane Campion's Power of the Dog. His film surprised me. It's a film that really got me on a visceral level. It's a film I haven't written a lot about, but it's a psychological thriller dressed up as a Western. And it's set in a really kind of awkward time, 1925, in Montana. And it's shot in New Zealand, which is another place that I have a little bit of familiarity with. I've been there. Which does not look like Montana, but it is this sort of wild, almost prehistoric looking, landscape. And it's masterfully controlled. The thing about Campion's films is that she takes over. You will think what she wants you to think when she wants you to think it when you're watching her films. And this film is no different than that. And I'm really impressed just on a technical level and on an emotional level because the film really hit me. It's a study of toxic masculinity. And it's something that, I can relate to, and maybe a lot of American men can relate to, and a lot of American women can probably relate to it too. So that's probably going to be the top space. The second space I'm going to give to a movie called This Is Not a War Story, which no one has seen, because I want more people to seek it out. It's an interesting independent drama that seems barely scripted, seems like a documentary. And the only reason I saw it was because Karen was was a juror on a film festival in Kansas, and we got a bunch of films to watch. She got a bunch of films to watch so she could, like, make remarks about them, and they showed them in the festival, and I think this one actually won. So this is not a war story. Look it up. It's a fine film. The Beatles Get Back is moving into number 3, just because I don't know where else to put it. I think you do this strategically, because I know that Power of the Dog may have a chance to win the SEFCA poll. I don't know. I mean, it's sort of like you get 10 points for the first place, 9 points for second, and then they take all 60 ballots or however many they are, and they tabulate them, and the winner is the one that comes up with the most points. So I know that this is not a war story. It's probably not going to get very many votes. It's going to get a vote from Karen. It's going to get a vote from me. It may not get a vote from anybody else because nobody else has seen it, and that's not their fault. But I want to put it pretty high in my ranking, because even though if I was doing it another way, I might just put it down at the bottom just to get it noticed, just to get it, like we used to do that with the Rolling Stone, not the Rolling Stone, with the Village Voice pass and chop thing, because you would do this. It was same sort of voting, and at the end at the bottom, you would just put an album that you wanted to get mentioned in the poll somewhere. That wasn't necessarily Paris is sitting down over there, back there. But anyway, you would mention an album, like a local album or an album no one's ever heard of, and you would put it at the bottom of the poll, just so it would get in the long list of all the albums. It would get, like, others receiving votes. It would get 1 vote, 2 votes, whatever. It would get mentioned, and it would be kind of a nice little, gesture for whoever did that album. And we're throwing out the whole idea that you're really ranking movies in the order that they are better than and worse than, because that's just silly. I mean, it's sort of like The Power of the Dog is no better than Get Back, is no better than Drive My Car, is no better than This Is Not a War Story. They're all great films in their own way. They're all really strong works of art. And art is not a competition. And it's kind of demoralizing to try to sort them in these things. So what I'm trying to do when I fill out my ballot is I'm trying to, play the game. And, if I want Power of the Dog to be honored, to win the poll, which I kind of do, then I'm going to put it high so it will get more points. And the movies that I know aren't going to factor in that, you can play around with them, put them in different places. They're going to get however many points they're going to get. In the aggregate, we're going to come out with what we come out with, which will probably look like a lot of the critics groups. There's going to be a lot of sameness in this, even though I cannot tell you at this point who's going to win a lot of these things. I think Drive My Car is a contender. I think the Macbeth movie that I haven't seen is a contender. I think Power of the Dog is a contender. I think something like Licorice Pizza, which I have seen, is a contender. And you should, I'm not going to link to it here, but check out Philip Vandy Price's Philip Vandy Price's Facebook page and his Twitter, and you will find our review of it, our initial reaction review, which is the video he does. And I'm going to link to that when it opens, because, it's like no good giving you my initial review of that film 2 weeks before it opens. So we're going to put it in there. But you can search that out. Okay. So we've got, maybe it's the top 4. Maybe, Power of the Dog, This Is Not a War Story, Get Back, Drive My Car, which is interesting because it's a Beatles title. It's a Murakami novella that's been adapted and expanded into this 3-hour Japanese film. It's just wonderful. 5, why not Pig? Pig is a film that made a big impression on me. I love the cinematography. I love the way it looked. I love Nicolas Cage's performance in it. I love the philosophy of it. It's almost like a Paul Schrader film, like Card Counter or First Reform. I mean, it's kind of has that feel to it. There's a lot of stuff going on there, and I like that. And Pig, naturally, I figured follow Pig with Lamb because that's Icelandic fable. And I am a world expert on Icelandic cinema. You know, we've been on the Icelandic cinema train for a long time now, and I really like the film a lot. It is a fairy tale. It is not quite a horror movie, but it is very close. The filmmakers don't want you to think it's a horror movie, but and it's got some wonderful animal acting in it. And that leads me in a film. One film reminds me of it. Pig reminded me of Lamb, and Lamb reminded me of Petite Maman, which is coming out in a couple. I think it's going to pretty wide release in February, and it's another movie by the woman who did Portrait of a Woman on Fire that came out a couple of years ago, and this is very different than that. It's a very gentle French film about childhood, and about motherhood, and about daughterhood. Which I really liked. And it sort of knocked off The Lost Daughter, which is a film I also liked. But there's just 10 spots, there's some of the same issues. There's some crosstalk between Petite Maman and The Lost Daughter that would make an interesting double feature, just as Pig and Lamb would make an interesting double feature, I think. Number 8, I'm going with a documentary, another documentary. There's 3 documentaries in my top 10. I don't think that's ever happened before. This is a tentative top 10. This is not the official, written in stone one, which I never really get around to doing. And that's The First Wave, and that is the COVID documentary that I wrote about extensively in this section. It's just devastating. It's about the first weeks of COVID in New York at a Long Island hospital, and it's follows patients and nurses and doctors through this, from the time it was just this mysterious thing that was showing up to the time it was a full blown pandemic, and it's a tough watch. It's a tough watch. It's incredibly intimate and visceral, and really, Number 9, and then these all these orders are just silly. I mean, these are 2 films that I think have to be on my list because I enjoyed them so much. The pure enjoyment of these next 2 films. The Velvet Underground, which is Todd Haynes. Todd Haynes is one of my favorite filmmakers. This is a documentary about the Velvet Underground, which is a very unconventional documentary. It takes up with Lou Reed's story, and it's told. It's a symphony of voices with some interesting visual stuff. It's not a terrifically linear documentary, but it's mesmerizing, and it's got some great passages in it. It's Apple TV, so it's not like everybody saw it. I enjoyed it. You just have to admit when a film, really takes you to that place that you really, I could watch that and Let It Be, I could just watch, or Get Back. I could just watch those things, just like wallow in them for a while. And then the 10th spot, and this is probably, I don't know how to rank these things. It's like The French Dispatch. That's my 10th favorite movie of the year? No, I mean, it was a movie that brought me a lot of joy. Just going to see it in the theaters, and it really was kind of a film that marked a full-fledged return back to the theaters. I didn't see it that long ago, and I had been to the theaters, and I had seen things in movie houses, all through the summer, even 2020, I was seeing movies. But this really felt like something we really needed. It was something we'd been looking forward for a long time, and it didn't disappoint. It's a wonderful tribute to literary journalism, and Jeffrey Wright does a wonderful impression of James Baldwin in it. And you can tell if you're versed in the lore of the New Yorker, you can tell who everybody is supposed to be. And you can see how wonderful that it is that Wes Anderson, just sort of like embraces this, and it's just sort of, it's a great nerd out for a certain kind of person. Okay. Wow, that took me 20 minutes to get through those films. Okay. Lots of films, that I left out, sort of like Belfast. I like Belfast a lot. I like The Lost Daughter a lot. I like Licorice Pizza. Karen did not like Licorice Pizza. I liked it. The Worst Person in the World was another film I really enjoyed, and I think that it's going to have a little bit of an impact when it shows up in February. Mass, which has never shown up in the theater here, and I don't think it's going to be on VOD until around Christmas time, is another film I liked a lot, thought about. The Humans, which has a wonderful ensemble cast, including Richard Jenkins and Amy Schumer and Beanie Feldstein. That's, nice. I have not seen. Don't Look Up, I haven't seen. That's one I should have seen probably, and probably I will before the end of the week. Let's see, I mentioned Belfast. I don't know, sort of like Titane. That was a nice film. Annette was not my cup of tea exactly, but I get it. Come on, come on. I get it. What else? I mentioned Annette. Oh, the Sparks Brothers was a documentary. There were a dozen or more documentaries this year that could have made it on the top 10 list. And maybe they will. And when I do my annual end of the year thing on the Sunday, I think it's going to be Sunday the 26th. Does that sound right? Let's see. It's the 12th. This is Friday, so yeah, 14 days. Yeah. I think it's the day after Christmas. We're running it this year. I'll have all these things in there, and it'll be more codified and better thought through, and it'll be the usual 3,000 words on the movies. But for now, this is what I'm working with. This is my rough thing. It's going off this weekend, and there'll be nothing I can do about it. And I won't think about it ever again. Anyway, that's it. Hope you enjoy this week's section, which is chock full again. And we'll see you on the other side when I'll be done watching movies for a little while. Okay, take care. Bye.